Hello everyone and welcome back to the next Muunilinst mock update video, and in this video I'm going to be giving you guys a general overview of everything that I've got done on the mock so far. So I'll kind of go through all the details that I've got in there so far, starting with the battlefield and moving through the city and onto the two larger scale buildings that I built more recently. So nothing new was really done in this episode except for I set up a bunch of figures to kind of give you guys an idea of what the battle might feel like when it's completed, but for the most part, just a general overview episode of everything that's been done so far, so you get some awesome wide shots and cool overview shots of the mock so far. So that's about it, and without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so we'll start off here with the wide shot with the whole mock, and the mock's getting so large it's kind of starting to have a hard time getting into the frame of the camera, but this is what we've got so far for Muunilinst. Again, 12 episodes in, and we've got quite a lot of stuff done on the mock, and I'm happy with the way it looks so far, but I wanted to give you a quick wide shot here before we go into the smaller details of the build, and then of course at the end of the video, if you want another wide shot, stick around for that because I'll go back and get another wide shot to close out the video. But here is kind of what we're looking at to start off. For this video, the plan is we'll go right after this little video clip, we'll go into the battlefield to get into that a little bit, and then we'll move on to the middle kind of destroyed section of the city, and then we'll move on to the most recent two large-scale buildings. And essentially what will happen is I'll kind of go in for some close-ups and kind of talk quickly about each individual part of the mock, so the video isn't like 30 minutes long like the last overview I did for the Clone Wars mock update series. That was like 30 minutes. I'll try to keep this one a little shorter. I'll kind of go through everything that's been done so far and then talk about a little bit about what I plan to add in as the series continues. So here's the wide shot of the Battle of Muunilinst so far. So let's go ahead and start off with the battlefield. So the battlefield was kind of worked on the first few episodes of the series. Essentially what I did was, you see how I kind of got this wavy pattern going on right here. What I did was I used a combination of multiple different slope pieces, stacking them together in different and inverted ways, and kind of placing them next to each other to create this kind of smooth, wavy formation of this kind of interesting battlefield that I took inspiration from some of the screenshots from Muunilinst. So that's kind of the inspiration behind the battlefield. And then I have some debris piles all over the battlefield for the eventual speeder bikes to zoom in and out of when I get around to that. For this overview, I am using Lego set speeders. By the end of this build series, I will be creating my own custom speeder bikes for the Republic and for the Separatist side, so stay tuned for that episode sometime in the future, but for now, as placeholders, I'm using some Lego set versions. So eventually the speeder bikes will be zooming in and out of all these pieces of cover, and we'll be able to have some infantry combat in there as well. So another thing to keep in mind for this video, I don't have enough of the realistic Phase 1 Clone Trooper designs for Lego, so I actually ended up having to combine the realistic Phase 1 Clone Trooper minifigure as well as the Clone Wars Phase 1 Clone Trooper minifigure. So just a heads up on that, I had to combine a couple of them. I know it's not the most ideal situation, but I don't have enough of the realistic Phase 1s at the moment, so I had to combine both versions, so just heads up on that right now. But again, this is more about kind of showing you guys the build, but I wanted to make sure to set up some figures to kind of show you guys some cool things. Down over here, we've got a trench, kind of using a cool inner lining and ground design on the trench using sand green 1x2s as well as dark gray 1x2s. You kind of can see the floor of the trench as well as the kind of inner linings of the trench right there. Again, an interesting design. I'm pretty happy with the way this trench came out. And I've just got a couple of assassin droids in there with some poor clone troopers, but this clone trooper right down here is actually getting the better of this assassin droid. He's smacking him in the face with the butt of his rifle, so I thought that was a pretty cool setup. These trenches are going to be fun to set figures up in, just to have kind of this infantry combat going on in the trenches, but also having the speeder bikes zoom by while the fighting is going on in here. I think that's going to be pretty neat. And then down here we've got some kind of pieces of debris and rubble and some assassin droids kind of taking cover. This one's got a pulse rifle and he's kind of sniping through the pieces of cover, and then some more assassin droids. And then here's some speeder bike, just kind of messing around with the possible figure setups for these speeder bikes, because I think they're going to be a lot of fun once I get the custom speeder bikes built to have an epic speeder bike charge. So stay tuned again for hopefully an episode coming up soon, but if not, towards the end of the series, where I will start to design some custom speeder bikes, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So more kind of custom debris pieces all over the place for more troops to get cover once we get some more minifigures. And then we've got some more pieces of debris over here, and I thought this was cool. I've got a clone commander, which is actually one of my favorite types of clones, and the minifigure is really cool too. I just love the yellow markings on the Phase 1 clone troopers. I've got him, he kind of stole a javelin from somebody and is now stabbing this assassin droid on the ground right there, so I thought that was really cool. I wanted to make sure the clone commander was doing something really cool. So we just got some clone troopers over here as I knock down some stuff. We've got some clone troopers over here holding out in this debris, trying to protect the commander right there from the assassin droids who are on their way. Alright, so that's about it with the battlefield for now. Some things I do want to add in are possibly some more pieces of debris kind of scattered throughout the battlefield, but primarily what's going to cover all of this is going to be multiple speeder bikes. So it's kind of flat and plain, but don't worry, by the end this will be covered with speeder bikes and speeder bike crashes and all sorts of epicness going on for the actual battle. So there's the battlefield so far. Just imagine this full of speeder bikes with droids and clones going at each other. One thing I guess to note right here before I go any farther, I'll kind of explain what I thought for what was going on for this particular minifig setup. You can see the clones have pushed up all the way on this side. So the idea is that the clones have controlled this area and they were kind of pushing in this way. And then somewhere over here, an assassin droids kind of squad started a counterattack. So that gave me an excuse to kind of like pretend that there was more stuff going on over here, even though the table kind of just drops off. But imagine they kind of came in from off screen or off camera and started to counterattack. So just to give me a reason to set up figures over here. So that's pretty much it for the battlefield, and we'll go ahead and move on to the entrance / destroyed kind of portion of the actual city. Alright, so next up here we're going to move on to this kind of middle section with a lot of these destroyed buildings and the entrance. So the idea for the entrance are these kind of giant pillars with an archway, and these are inspired from a screenshot that I found on Muunilinst. There's a secret entrance that the ARC troopers actually sneak through, and that's kind of where I got the inspiration for this entrance right here. So kind of using some tiles to create these larger pillars to kind of give it that cool Muunilinst scale, which I thought was something I wanted to include for the build right here. And the ground is actually made up of just a whole bunch of different 1x1 tiles and plates and all sorts of different colors to kind of give it an interesting texture and design, as you can see right there. So there's actually a lot of spots to place minifigures, so clones can actually push up. It'll be a lot easier to place figures in this area than the battlefield because there's actually studs to attach them to, but it also gives it some nice texture. So I think that is something that is really cool and necessary to add in here as I was looking through a lot of different screenshots. But we've got the archway here, and then down over here I've just got a few more clone troopers kind of stuck over here trying to push their way through over to this side, battling the droids. Next we've got this kind of middle area where we've got the two buildings right here, so one over here and one down here, and they're actually pretty much identical. The only thing that's different is the kind of pillars that are up on the side. They're kind of destroyed and standing in different ways. That side's a little bit different than this side, but for the most part their designs are the exact same, and again kind of using the same pattern that I got going on for the entranceway in terms of the ground design, just using a lot more light gray to kind of make it look like it's a snake pattern is what I like to call it, where it kind of weaves in and out and kind of goes through all these different interesting ways to create a cool technique. So I kind of call that the snake pattern. And then I guess I'll just kind of show you guys some close-ups of these buildings. Here are the designs for the actual buildings right here. There was one screenshot in particular that I might put on screen if I remember to, that I was really taking inspiration from with this kind of design. So the ground, or not the ground, the base layer of the building is a combination of masonry brick along with light gray plates and sand green plates and sand green 1x1s. There's kind of a base layer, and this design that you see on the front actually goes around on all of these sides. And then there's another layer on top that's kind of uneven, using more 1x1 plates and 1x2 plates as well. And then of course the pillars on the side. Some of them are kind of angled in weird, interesting ways to kind of make it look like it's kind of been destroyed or bombed out. So I actually had a lot of fun designing and creating these buildings. And then there's just sand green tiles, 1x2 tiles for the kind of bottom of the building there, for the floor of the building. And then just over here for figures, you got some super battle droids, a droid commander in the back, and a dwarf spider droid kind of shooting across at the other building, at the clones. And then on the left side of the screen, you've got some droids who are kind of protecting the back side of this building. So here is the first building. I'll go ahead and show you guys a quick look at the other building. Here is the other building, and again, it's pretty much the exact same design as the last building I just showed you. The only thing different is that part on the left side where I kind of made it look like it was destroyed a little bit, as if part of the building had kind of been blown out by perhaps a grenade or a wrist rocket, as the clones are trying to watch those wrist rockets. And we've got the same design on the bottom using the sand green, masonry brick, and a few other plates and parts, and then you can kind of see the distinction between the top and the bottom layers right there. And then we've just got some clone troopers taking cover behind that wall and shooting back and over at the droids. And then as we go down here, you kind of can see I've got a pillar that's kind of collapsed. Theoretically, it would have fallen from this building right here and landed on the ground. It's created a little divot in there, so now some clone troopers can take cover behind it. And then last thing I'll show is kind of this area back here. So we've got another pillar that's kind of fallen down. Again, kind of one from this main building right here where the pillar kind of fell down. Created a little divot using some 1x1 plates and 1x2 dark gray plates. And we've got a trench in there. It's kind of hard to see right now to get my camera in there. Plus, I'm still working on it, so I've got an episode on the trench if you want to see what it looks like up close. I'll leave an info card on screen right now for that, but it's kind of hard to see right now. So if you want to see the full trench, just go check out that video. I kind of go in depth on how I created that trench and that interesting design. But we do have a trench right there where clone troopers kind of shooting up at those droids. And again, if once I get some more clones, you'll notice I don't have, like, a lot of my clones are kind of spread out throughout this MOC because I don't have the amount of troops that this MOC is probably going to need in terms of filling up the appropriate amount of space for figures versus the how large the MOC is. So just imagine a couple more clones in that trench, stuff like that. That'll be pretty interesting. All right, and that is the middle part of the build. I think it's my favorite part of the build so far, just because the part I have most complete with the most amount of details, with the groundwork, with kind of the snake pattern, and then these two pretty much identical buildings. I think it's my favorite part of the build, and what I've done here is having the clones kind of engage with droids across the MOC. I think that's a cool feature. I've always liked the idea of long-range engagements for clones versus droids, especially these poor clones having to go up against a dwarf spider droid, but I just love the idea of clones taking cover behind the building down there and shooting across the street over at those droids. So that was something I wanted to include. But yeah, those are those two, the main destroyed buildings that we've got on the MOC so far. Next and last for this kind of miniature overview video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about these two large-scale buildings that I just most recently completed, and I'll kind of go through some of the figures down there because I have some cool new things to show you guys that I think you guys have heard me talk about for a long time, and I'm finally excited to show you guys some of those. But we'll go ahead and move on to these next two large-scale buildings. Alright guys, so lastly here we'll look at the kind of last part that I've got built so far and the thing I did the most recently, which was these two large-scale buildings. There's a particular screenshot that I was looking at where they're again kind of these similar identical buildings with kind of a walkway across from them, and I did get lots of excellent feedback from you guys on the walkway that connects the two buildings, so I will be implementing some of those ideas perhaps in the next episode, but I wanted to keep it up just for this overview. But the buildings are very massive. Obviously it would be awesome to make them a lot bigger, like minifig scale, but with the amount of parts available that I have right now and the fact that I need to also make a bunch more buildings in the back of the city, this is the size that I went with, again using lots of those big pillars and then sand green and obviously light gray. And on the bottom I used the same design that I did kind of down here on the bottom base layers, and then kind of built squares inside of them and then surrounded them with pillars. So lots of interesting things going on with these buildings. I'll go ahead and show off some of the stuff down here, and then I'll kind of get in some close-ups of these two large-scale buildings. Alright guys, so I did make the purchase. I bought Clone Army Customs' new Tiger Shark ARF Trooper. I've been waiting on this guy for a while. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get him or not, but after they had their Order 66 sale, I felt like I had to get him. Literally the description for this figure is time to take back Muunilinst, so I felt like this guy would be perfect for this MOC. So there is the Tiger Shark ARF Trooper. I will have a review hopefully up on him very, very soon. But behind him you can kind of see some of the destroyed rubble that I was talking about earlier. I thought that was a cool background for this figure, but a couple other exciting things over this way, guys. Alright, so over here we've got a bunch of clone troopers pushing up on this building, and I'm glad to finally be able to tell you guys that I have completed my Captain Fordo ARC Trooper and one blue ARC Trooper. So essentially what I did down there was get some antennas and put them on the Lego version of like the Clone Captain and the Clone Lieutenant, and then I bought some custom waist capes and pauldrons from Clone Army Customs, put those on those Lego figures, and kind of created these interesting mixes between Clone Army Customs and Lego. I didn't want to buy the full-on Clone Army Custom figures. I think that would have been a little too expensive for me when I could be spending some more money on parts instead of getting a lot of those blue ARC Troopers as well as Captain Fordo. So I decided to just use the ones I already had, the Lego versions, and put the custom pauldrons and waist capes on them. So I'll be showing these guys off a ton in future episodes and hopefully getting one more blue ARC Trooper as well finished up. But right here we've got them pushing up over on this side. Again, we've got a clone also right there in between the pillars, kind of shooting over at the droids. One thing I really wanted to capture with these buildings was the idea of clone droids shooting at each other through these pillars on the building, so that's what I wanted to make sure to include. And then we have also got a clone trooper getting shot right there from presumably this droideka over here, or there's a bunch of droids up here in this building that'll show in a second, but I wanted to show off the new addition of Fordo and the blue ARC Trooper. Alright, and across the street here from Fordo and his ARC Trooper, we've got General Kenobi in his clone armor, and I've gave him kind of a brown cape, and I've got him up here up the front leading his men, slicing up that battle droid. He's got a few clones behind him again, using the building and the pillars as cover, which was something I really was excited about for Muunilinst. I don't know why, it's small things like that that really get me all excited to build and place figures, is small stuff like having clones fight droids through these pillars. And then on the opposite side of them, we've got some super battle droids and a Hailfire tank. I normally don't use Lego sets in my builds, but the Hailfire is actually a good size for this MOC, so I included that in here to kind of show you guys what the Hailfire tank droid might look like in this battle. And then we've got the stairs leading up to the building, and if we actually go all the way up here to the top of the building, we've got some more droids up here. We've got some super battle droids, normal battle droids, as well as a sniper droid. So that is a custom sniper inspired by the gunship crash scene from the 2003 Clone Wars. So he is presumably shooting down at the ARC Troopers and the guys down here, just like the show. So we've got the droids all the way up here, shooting down at the clones, and then we've got some more droids over on this side as well. And then if we go across the walkway right here, you eventually get to the other building right here, which does have a few clones in it. Over on this side right here, I wanted to show a clone kind of climbing up from down over here. He was with the ARC Troopers, and then he was tasked with climbing up this building, so that's what he's kind of doing right there. Now we are on the other building, so I just showed you guys this bridge right here with that droid. And if we go across over to here, we've got some clones over here engaging the droids on the other side. Again, this is the stuff I love for building MOCs and setting up figures. These clones kind of shooting across the buildings at the droids, so I thought that was really, really cool. And then you can kind of see some of the details on the side of the building down there. And if we go all the way down here, we've got some more droids and a droid commander right here, and the droideka shooting over at Fordo and his men, and then the stairs leading up into the building. So that's kind of what we got so far. Here's the back side of the building right here. This is actually kind of a cool angle for the rest of the MOC, underneath kind of the bridge right here, looking down all the way towards the battlefield that I showed you guys earlier in this video. But these buildings are pretty big, and I think they fit very well with the Muunilinst scale. The things I kind of plan on doing next, so if we look at this area down here, there's going to be a lot more buildings and streets kind of in this area. I'm just kind of gathering ideas, looking at screenshots, trying to plan out what I want to do next, and I'm probably going to have to make some orders because I want to make sure I make the rest of the buildings pretty big as well to honor how awesome that epic battle is in the 2003 Clone Wars series. Alright guys, and that is pretty much everything I've got done so far on Muunilinst. I am really having a ton of fun making this MOC, and I hope you guys are enjoying the video series, and I want to give you guys a quick shout out and huge thank you to all you guys who have been watching the videos, leaving likes, subscribing, and leaving comments. The big thing with this MOC series, in the same way with all my other MOC series and I guess videos in general, the kind of engagement from you guys really helps me when I get some feedback. So whenever I post questions on what do you guys think of certain things, getting feedback from you guys is really, really helpful. Every time I need to move on to like the next stage of the build. So that's always really, really helpful. So I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to all you guys who have been helping me build or tuning into the live streams to kind of give me ideas and keep me company while I build. Speaking of which, live streams, I've been trying to do those on Saturday nights, so come join. I'll be building kind of Muunilinst and talking probably about Bad Batch, as well as a bunch of other different topics, history topics, other Star Wars topics, all sorts of different things like that. So definitely try to come join on Saturday nights for live streams. They are a ton of fun. So kind of as I said in the last clip, the next sort of step in Muunilinst is to kind of the next step in Muunilinst is to work on the backside over there behind the hailfire, and my plan is to have a bunch more buildings. I don't know how many yet. I'll have to kind of gather my resources and see how many parts I have left available, but that will be kind of the next step, is working on the next couple of buildings, and we'll kind of go from there. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of Muunilinst so far. Do you have any cool ideas you want me to add? Any feedback? Anything new come to mind in this overview? Just let me know. I'll be looking through those and responding to your guys' comments. So thank you guys so much for watching this overview. Hopefully you did enjoy. I wanted to go through and kind of update you guys on everything that's been done so far and set up some figures, kind of give you a sense of what the battle is going to feel like. So that's about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the outro. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you did enjoy. Just a general overview episode, but for the next Muunilinst mock update, I am planning on getting back to building some more large-scale buildings, as well as kind of working on that bridge from last week's episode. So a bunch of more exciting things headed this way for Muunilinst, so make sure to stay tuned to that. Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to Director KW, who during the last live stream donated a very gracious amount of money to put towards Muunilinst. So I want to give a huge shout out to Director KW. He's a beast and a legend, and he donated a very generous amount of money that I can put towards Muunilinst to make this mock even better and even more epic. So huge shout out to Director KW. Make sure to go give him some love next time you see him in a live stream or in the comment section. So that's about it for this video. As always, leave your feedback in the comment section below. Hope you guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.